Someone dropped off this 2013 Kymco UXV 500, and the issue they're having is it's not starting. Looking online, I didn't find hardly any videos on these in general, so I figured I'd put a video together. Unfortunately, I already took most of it apart, so that's not going to be shown here, but kind of walk through a few things, what I found, and then a couple repair procedures. So the issue the person was having is that they said it wouldn't start. And when I was given it, I would crank it over and it would just spin and spin and spin. Occasionally I'd hear a little bit of puff of exhaust, but not really. Other than that, everything just kind of spun. And so what I first did is I went and I removed the starter. Now, here on the starter, I did find there are little divots, if I can get this to focus in here, on each one of these little splines you can see. So I was thinking that maybe the starter gears were just spinning past the starter and not actually turning the engine over. But like I said, I was hearing a little puff of exhaust every once in a while, so I figured I'd dig a little deeper. So I pulled the spark plug off. The wire sits right in here, and then the spark plug's down there. Pulled that off, and I found that there was a little bit of air hitting my finger every time I would crank the engine over. I did hook up a pressure gauge, and I was getting 0 PSI, 0 compression on the engine itself. So that led me to believe, well, okay, the starter is working, and all the gears are spinning, so it's at least trying to work. So I took the valve cover off. To do that, there was just 4 bolts that held that on, maybe a couple tubes that went into it, but pulled that off and then cranked it over again. And what I found is that the exhaust cam here would spin just fine, and you could see the rockers going up and down as they should and as they're supposed to. However, the intake side, you can see that gap in between the lobe right here. It's a perfect circle. This engine had a failure where it wore off the lobe of that intake cam, and it is now a circle. So if I didn't have it all apart already, I'd crank it over for you, and you could see that the lobe never even touches these valves, or the rocker. So these valves stay completely open. So I decided to take everything apart to get at that. So a few things I thought I'd just quick go over while I'm doing this. So pull the starter out, like I said, a couple little bends on the splines there. These do have timing chains, and the chain itself is tight, so it didn't come loose there at all, which is good. The issue obviously is that valve is not opening or closing, so it's not building compression. So pull the valve cover off, and to get at everything, to get at the timing chain and tensioners, I had to pull the crankcase all off. And with the crankcase off, you can see, like I said, the chain and tensioner and all the components, the guides and stuff all in there. So to get the crankcase off, you can see it's right here. The crankcase sits in there this way, I think. And so the crankcase sits in there this way, and pull off all the cooling hoses and tubes. And one thing that I struggled, I pulled all the bolts off to get the crankcase off, and it still wouldn't come off. I had left this black plastic cover on. Well, there's a bushing that sits in here that looks like this. This sat right in there. I'll pull that all off because there is a nut that sits on the inside of that. So you got to pull this off in order to get this crankcase off. So now that the crankcase is off, set that back over there. We can get at everything. So I'm going to align this top dead center and then pull off all of these gears and release the tension from the timing chain. And then I'll be removing the timing chains and then the exhaust cam here to fix that lobe. So I don't remember if this is exhaust or intake, but get that replaced, put it all back together, and then I'll put a new video up after I get it all back together.